right. Gonna clap in.
Ooh, they get to hear the clap.
Oh, the
Oh,
kloop.
kloop.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. 1, 2, 3, clap.
Loop.
I didn't feel great about that clap. I missed my hands.
I feel fantastic about that clap.
Dang it. We're never going to get a second clap now.
Write in if you want a referendum on that clap.
Yeah. So I don't think we decided who was going to be running this. Just realized that's why we're all being very quiet.
We're all just
Deference.
waiting. No,
Oh, crap.
No one else.
congratulations, Jeff.
It's like reverse democracy.
I think you're
Yeah.
muted, Jeff.
Oh, man. Can't be Jeff now. This was all part of a careful ploy.
No, see, that's the thing. I've asked, that would make sense because I asked a couple times if anyone could hear me.
Gonna boost your volume a little bit, Jeff.
Oh,
Just a little
we
bit
could
louder.
not hear you. Now we can.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yeah.
I still remember that phone
Sweet.
commercial. I'm ancient.
That guy.
Yeah.
Verizon?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Do they still ask that? Do people care
Okay.
whether they can be heard now?
No one's using phones for voices anymore.
Well, when you're
That's true.
professional streamers like we are,
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure we're being heard.
Doing this
Wow.
thing that we do all the
I did
time.
nothing except for toggle mute on Discord. I was unmuted the whole time. Oh, hello, and welcome to Machine Learning, a pod about the machine from Pod Against the Machine, the only podcast with a supplementary podcast with a 25-word title.
Nice.
Got it
I
in one.
was
Nailed it.
voluntold to be your host today. Hello, I'm Jeff, and with me are everybody.
Hello.
Hey. Oh, you can see
Hello.
us wave this time.
Oh yeah, we can wave and it's not
Yeah.
mean.
I didn't have to say it at all.
Giant wave. Oh man,
These are our waveforms.
this was a poor choice in delegation, but here we are.
Doing great.
It's for the children, and we have the whole crew together for once. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Could use another coffee.
I've been having a day.
I could use some of Pater's like apples or carrots or one of them. Give me a little bit of a kick right now.
Or an extreme nausea. That's
Mhm.
is the
Yes,
thing.
as well.
You got to roll that fortitude save.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know where that. What would everyone's highest save be?
Oh, for sure, Fort. Con? Do they have a con? No, I guess we don't have
Well,
those here. So just Fort.
Con is fort. It's the same
Yeah.
here.
Definitely not Dex.
No. Reflexes are anathema.
Yeah, we'll say for sure.
Oh, shoot. I forgot
It's
about
the
a will
healthy
save. Yeah.
cynicism of our generation. We just don't believe anything. It's
I
all
just feel
like
illusion.
Yeah, I'll take reflex. I think working food service for a little while gives you like a couple set of skills, and one of them is trying to catch the knife even though you shouldn't, and other games of manual dexterity.
Yeah, don't try to catch the knife.
Don't try to catch the knife. All sides of the knife are sharp. Yeah, I would say
I believe that's called a show.
I think Ford is my lowest save. I don't know. I get tired pretty easily.
I was going to say, I considered Fort save because I don't get sick very often. But when I do get sick, it's real sick. So I don't know. Maybe it is a will save. I'm very stubborn.
I don't know, really.
Sam?
I think all my saves are terrible right now.
Yeah.
I have the
That's
the
kind of
saves
where I'm saying.
saves -4 condition currently, which is a new condition that we've made just for me.
-4 save.
Yeah.
I guess I had to
So
pick
how about
something
that
that's
book
my worst
4?
one. It would be con.
Yeah, book
Yeah,
4.
also worst is Fort. I've been sick forever.
Book 4.
Or
Book 4, yeah. So here we are, 2/3 of the way almost through this adventure. I thought it was going to be a generational thing we pass on to our children, but now it seems like we really might finish it, within the next 8 to 12 years.
Someday.
there is that like inverse correlation between like number of books and the AP and time with which you speedily clear it. Time dilation occurs in book 6. It could be like years. It could be, we're talking grandkids. Maybe.
I feel like now granted, I've only played through one AP before this that like I played through a lot of that was a 6-book AP. I finished 2 3-book APs, but and we finished partway through book 5 because it basically we just weren't able to keep going. So I finished it via buying book 6 and reading it because I wanted to know what happened. But from like ones that I've listened to of other groups that have finished ones, it seems like 6 is like a coin flip as to whether you end up just like blowing through it because it gets to the point where like there's not as much like separate open paths to go through, or it's a ridiculous slog that's the same length of everything that came before it. Like it seems like it's one of those two things.
I think a lot of that has to do with like each adventure kind of has like its meta title and where it sits in there. Like there are some adventures where book 5 is like the mega dungeon book, or like the kind of like, book 2 for us, for example, right? Just like basically set entirely in Scrapwall. Book 3 was a dungeon book, essentially. Like book 4, we're back in the area, kind of. I don't know exactly how to describe those, but like book 1 was a dungeon book.
Yeah, 2 and 4 have kind of been like sandboxy. Like you just have a big area and you have to work through all the different stuff.
Almost a hex crawl.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then 2 had the whole patented like there's an enemy stronghold and you have to do stuff to weaken their power base type thing that they tend to like to include in a lot of their APs.
Oh, you're referring to
4,
Paizo's Big Bad Daddy Point system?
Yeah. Yes. Meanwhile, 4 is more kind of like Jess said, like kind of a traditional hex crawl where it's like there's all these points of interest, but they don't really have much to do with each other. They're all just kind of separate locations to interact with. Versus book 2, each place you went to weakened the power of like the final fight type area.
Yeah.
Which it may be a good point to call out that there will be spoilers if you're not caught up, if we're going to be talking about book 4. That's where we currently are. So if that's fine with you, great. It's for the children.
It's for the children.
Yeah, speaking of spoilers, so Sam, what do you think of that final boss fight and all of its crazy weaknesses?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely about to reveal all of those. Maybe you've already beaten the final boss of book 4. Maybe it's just like empty rooms from here on out.
Yeah.
It could be. I mean, stranger things have happened.
Yeah. Like
Discuss some of those Stranger Things.
4 seasons of Stranger Things.
I forget where book 4 starts. Which one is book 4? We could just get a quick refresh of where we are.
The one we're currently in. We're in the Scar of the Spider looking for Cassandra Lee's brain chip or neurocam.
/ Orange Julius.
The Orange
OJ.
Julius.
She stashed the Orange Julius with the schematics for the divinity, or at least some important information or something, somewhere in this valley, in a cave in the valley. And you came and discovered that there are, as it says in episode 1 of this book's title, an embarrassment of caves.
Mm-hmm. And also, as the title of the book kind of gives away, an embarrassment of brain stealers. Like, basically every single enemy in Paizo's library that can do something to your brain appears to have set up their own little subdivision within this place.
Yeah, it was. I guess we're getting up to.
Up.
What?
No, go ahead. Yeah, no, it was kind of an interesting, callback to book 2, where we had the Ruchalik. That was that was a really affecting episode for Brixby for sure, and I think that it is, the Valley of Gaslighting and Cognitive Tricks is not necessarily like the best place for him to be right now. Most recently, those little intellect devourers were something. Feels almost dirty to be talking about such recent episodes in a general recap like this, but we already gave them the spoiler warning, so you know what's going on.
There it is.
Yeah. Like, one of those things that crosses the visceral threshold of fear into real life for me. The idea of like a brain eating your brain and then just kind of jumping in there and filling you up with fluid, sort of otherwise. Yeah. I think it's almost worse that it is like a brain versus like, I don't know, like a body snatcher's pod or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's a brain with legs, though.
It's true.
That makes it better.
Does it?
I don't know where the legs go when the brain crawls into your skull. Like, do they just kind of go down the back of your neck, or
become your new limbs? Right? You have legs as arms.
They just hug
so
you
they
inside.
Can you.
Yes.
Yeah. Don't they like shrink down when they go inside?
What's that?
Don't they like shrink down when they go inside?
Yeah, they shrink, and then when the host that they're in dies, like they climb out, and it takes them around to like grow back to normal size and recover, so they can't do anything for a minute there.
Yeah, so I imagine they would just shrink to like smaller than a regular brain, and then their legs have room to like kick around in there.
A little pocket brain.
They fold up like a cat, I think.
Yeah, a little loaf. Just looks so happy.
And now they're cute.
I mean, it would be an adorable little like wizard familiar. Like, you could see one like purring as you like scratch it.
That's
right?
true.
Petting would be it'd be like one of those sort of hairless cats, but maybe a little bit more foldy.
Yeah, you just get like the brain brush for it.
Yes, it's got to get in the grooves.
Clean those out like a French bulldog.
Air.
Oh, compressed air makes more sense.
All right, so worst enemy that everybody thinks that we have faced in this book. Worst as in the like hardest fight, most terrifying. I am choosing and kicking it off with these intellect devourers, just because they also thrum on a primal chord of anxiety that I experience in the visceral world.
It's funny. I would have thought you were going to say Brix's lover was the hardest fight.
Honestly, by the time that he was done, it was just like, the intensity. It's less about like the positive or negative emotion, and it's the intensity of emotion that you feel, and that love can become such a resolved hatred by the end. But yeah, no, good point. It's like a good second, but I'm not really as afraid of my dashing French lover, turning coat on me as I am having my brain supplanted by an ambulatory little other brain.
I think the final fight against the Migo, just because, like the intellect devourers, they're immune to about 90% of what our party can do. We also had some troops in there which are immune to the other 10%, as well as just that boss Migo being a very powerful cleric, which, as we also saw with Nick Shariel, are not fun things to fight. So I think that fight, like, as much as I thought it was a very cool fight, like thematically, it was not a fun one for me mechanically, because there's just so little that I could do in that fight. Even like trying to help with the buffing was bad because they had as much debuffs as we had buffs.
I feel like, yeah, the Brixby's lover slash Nick Shariel slash Alaris.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
whose name I refuse to remember, except for that one time, I guess. That one, that made me a little nervous. I was concerned there for a second.
Yeah, and Nargan.
Nargan, the one who got away.
I was going to say, yes, the one who got away.
The worm that gets away.
I will say, even though I don't list that as my fight that I think was the hardest fight, that is the one that I think we came the closest to having like a total party wipe on in the book. Which I think, though, is
100%.
less because it was a hard fight and more because we just had really bad luck at the beginning of it.
Yeah, that blasphemy really just like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
and
that's
even just her healing herself after they like Kira did like 100 and something damage, and then she just like snaps her finger and casts heal, and it's all undone. And then Kira's surrounded by 3 people, and it's like, oh, awesome.
Well, that was a big swing because Kira almost dropped her. Like,
That was
just
so
straight up
satisfying.
almost took her down in round like 1, I guess. Yeah, because in the surprise
was the
round she did
first
the hook
round.
thing. She did the hook shot from
Yeah.
Legend of Zelda, pulled herself over there, and then like she was like first or second in initiative and immediately just drops off Blood Rager raging full attack chainsaw on the boss and almost drops her before she even gets a turn.
Night redemption arc from fighting and losing the. Who gave me a chainsaw?
not Kolgara, the other one.
Yeah, it was Kolgar.
It was Kolgara, yeah.
But the one you lost against was what's her name, the troll.
Yeah, that's
Hellsguard.
right. Hellsguard. Oh, way back in the day. Still
Yes.
want a rematch.
The people just can't wait for more performance combat. They really call book 5 the performance combat book too. It's just
PCB.
mm-hmm. Yep.
It all
Which-
takes place in an arena, probably.
We just go back to Scrapball and they've
Which would
rebuilt
benefit
everything, and
Tarazzi.
we fight in the arena.
Try again. Single combat for everyone.
Worst combat for your Tarazi.
Oh, likewise, I thought for sure we were going to lose at least one in the Nick Shariel, Kokara. Wow, thanks, guys. Nick Shariel, Zalaris, Hirsick, Nargan fight. I spent the next day building 2 backup characters, because I was confident I was not going to make it out. And I was pleasantly surprised that got close, but the dice were much more in our favor when not that any time passed, but if it had been a little bit. And then we finally got to resume that fight. And it was like our characters had a long rest, even though they didn't. We just came back in ready to dish it out.
Yeah, there definitely wasn't
12.
a literal month between the 2 halves of that fight or anything.
No time had passed.
12
The funny thing
strength
was-
penalty for a marshal is brutal.
Yeah, no, that blasphemy. I was gonna say, the funny thing was, like, like I had I'd been spending like that money thinking like, okay, I can do this, I can do this, I can do, and then when the actual fight happened, I don't think any of the stuff that like I had spent the month in between planning on actually was able to happen. And was that true of anybody else? Like, did anybody else like try to come up with like plans of how we could fight in between? And then when the actual fight recommenced, it just was completely 100% different.
I was in the bottom of initiative, so yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like best laid plans of rats and rats.
Oh, you guys plan stuff?
No.
It is what we use the plotting corner chat for. Join the Patreon Patreon tier where you can be in our Discord chat that Sam isn't even allowed in. It's like really
Very
up there.
exclusive.
I'm still waiting on my invite to that one.
Not
I
coming.
need it for research purposes. I mean,
8 to 12 years, you can have it.
sure.
Yeah, we'll gift you a printed out version of the historical chat messages.
Spoiler alert, it's like 80% of them trying to get my attention and me noticing way too late.
Oh man. No, to answer your question, Izzy, no, I don't plan. I'm also a martial character.
Yeah.
I just, I cast spells slightly about the same frequency as you do, and then I have a big snake that just tries and usually fails to bite things, and sometimes grabs them.
Maybe was book 4? No, Tarazi joined in book 3.
Yeah, kind of
It's
Kind of
in
like
between
in
us.
the in between of the two.
Cuspy.
Very cuspy.
Yeah.
We ran into the like was it self-hating cyborgs right in the middle of
Oh,
book
yeah,
or beginning
that's
of
right.
book 4?
The androids.
yeah, they were the
Yeah.
first
Or
couple
androids,
episodes.
yeah.
Yeah. The
Uh,
ones that were living in like the Luddite colony in the cave.
we just kind of like we're not giving you any of our technology, and then we just left, right? That was basically
Yeah.
our I wonder if we'll see them again, and I wonder how they're doing.
Yeah, I think you did pretty well on diplomacy to convince them not to insist on destroying all your stuff.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see them try.
Yeah. Basically, the diplomacy was for us to not murder them. They
Yeah.
might not have known that's what it was for, but
It's really
Things
their
have been-
diplomacy checks.
Right, and things have been pretty raw. We even went to Yadnve and like didn't cover the chainsaw. We were just
That's
like,
right. We're
kinda blew
level
that
12
spot up.
now.
Yes.
Can't hurt us.
The party was
we're
too
basically-
tired to go with disguises this time, and
yeah. But we're also basically at the point where we're stronger than like 90% of the people on the planet. So, like, what is anyone in Yanbei going to do to Kira? Like,
I have heard the
Right,
pen is mightier than the chainsaw. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I was going to say, we know the strongest warriors because we fought alongside them in the Zil Cave, and we're now like 4 or 5 levels, 6 levels higher than some of them. But a missile may have blown up his home, but there is still old Hosket who, like Zach was saying, could write just a vicious muckraking.
mm-hmm.
you might be a level 19 expert. You don't know.
It's true. He used to be BG.
Mm-hmm. Paizo's version of Upton Sinclair just coming for us all. That's it.
I've never seen Kevoth Cool and Hosket in the same room.
Uh-huh.
It's true.
Let's see, what else did we fight in this one? Aside from the brain snatchers. Well, we met our
trees.
new friends. We've got one GM NPC. And we had a second who betrayed us. We've already talked about that.
I might argue that you betrayed him. I mean, you left him out. You wouldn't even let him take his brain home, and then you left him to get eaten by fungus monsters.
We didn't leave him. We were right there. He didn't get eaten.
He might have.
No, we had the
His heart
situation
got
under
eaten
control.
that day.
His heart.
Yeah.
The best. I was just going to say, two of the best NPCs that we've met, or at least most enjoyable in a while, were Pater and Binox.
Mhm.
Binox is next level fantastic.
Mhm.
I will always
No, he's
think
fun.
of Brimba
Or they're
Pimbalus and Turklebin.
Did Binax have pronouns? I'm trying to think. Was Binax a he or was it a they?
Or is it an it?
I think Binox might be an it.
Just an it.
Love an it pronoun.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
I love the
almost
little
certainly
face,
have the PDF open.
Darth
but I
Vader
don't.
helmet with the dumb little eyes.
Still feel like we could be using Binox for more. And then we also have those pillars we got to restore at one point to make them even more efficient
Yeah.
to not use their services.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, because Binax can fix Time Worn, right? Isn't that one of the things it can
Mhm.
do? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I
the big
wish we would have had zero reason to keep it. But if we had hung on to the
one. Laser
Time
cannon
Worn
from
assault
Marrow.
rifle, yes,
Yeah.
from Marrow.
And the grenade launcher was the only reason grenades have been useful for the most part, other than accidentally almost blowing up our fellow party members when they're in pits.
hmm
Mm-hmm.
Seemed like a good idea at the time.
Yeah,
That was a great idea.
Grenade pinball was fun.
Yeah, it is
In
interesting
two
to
different
reflect.
books. I think where we had a character prime a grenade and then remember that they go off the immediate next round.
Marrow was like a really intense fight of book two. It's very interesting to reflect back on that and see how our party composition has changed a little bit, as well as our tactics, and then what we still do that is very similar to how we used to
We have
Just
strategize.
quite
get in a
learned.
big line with the mages in the front. It still
Yes.
happens.
Yeah. Historically speaking, this party has a lot of issues with a 5-foot wide hallway.
Yes.
Oh, the problem
AP
is this
mostly 5
AP
foot
yeah.
wide hallways.
Yeah.
This
You
AP
think it's
has
a
a problem
giant sandbox full of all these caves, but each of those caves is just more 5 foot hallways.
Mhm.
Hey, there's wall and floor orifices in where we are right now.
Yep.
Mhm.
Needed to hear
The
that
entire
word.
AP is basically taking place in the like ventilation shaft in the Nostromo from the first Alien movie, where it's just like you're hunched up to your shoulders, like going through these little.
But yeah, I mean, this book has been a lot more outside than I think
Mhm.
book 3 was. I mean, book 3, there were a lot of tiny rooms, not so much small hallways, just really small rooms where there's
Yeah.
like, oh, there's 12 people and this room is 15 feet by 10 feet.
Yeah.
And so everything's going to spill over into the next room and oh, you've activated another encounter or you've broken open the traps that were hidden there. And so that was its
There's
own brand
4
of
enemies
chaos.
in here, and 2 of them are made out of wind and are huge creatures.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to get out of the choking tower for every once in a while, but this is a very claustrophobic AP. And I mean, there are other ones that in PF1 lore that we don't need to spoil, but there are dungeoneer APs than this that some of us have even played together a bit. But it's interesting how like much of my spell selection for Brixby is heavily limited by like the size with which, like at this level, I should be overland flight and basically like 100 feet in the air all the time. It's like one of the mage survivability onion layers right there. And like we're constantly in rooms that are like 30 feet long with 30 feet ceilings. So, I mean, it is a little bit easier to not have to deal with 3D combat nearly as much, but it is kind of interesting. Like there is a whole swath of spells that are useless for at least bricks in this setting.
I will say it does, though, make sense from like a lore standpoint in that a lot of the things we've been in are spaceships. Like, even technically, some of the stuff in where we are now was like the living ship, but like, think of like that is tight corridors, small rooms. It's ships, and the few times we haven't been in ships, we've been either we have had like those nice big open space combats, just not very many of them, or it's been like book 3, like just crammed into the tiny little wizard's tower. But like it, I will say, like you said, it's a weird way to play, but at least they gave it a reason for it within the lore of the game. It makes sense that all of these places are going to have that design because they were built to be spaceships. You don't build a spaceship to have like giant 30-foot ceilings and like windows everywhere and all that kind of stuff.
Mm.
I am glad we're suffering less status conditions from biological architecture. That's cool, because like being sick the entire time sucked so bad. But I can only imagine how gross where they currently are is. And I mean, especially with like the fire spells and like all of the other things that are going off, like Asuma shooting the walls with like all sorts of elements. It's be real stinky in there. I can't imagine there's a whole lot of ventilation deep inside the biological generation ship.
Yeah. And those little jellyfish things that are everywhere. I'm assuming anytime anybody attacks, like 50 of those are getting killed. And so those are just littering everywhere. And I can't imagine they smell good. Like, it's.
Yeah, they're like everywhere, filling up this place. They come off the walls and float all around. They're not clustering on you guys anymore like they were when you first went in and you had that special stink. They really seem to like the special stink, but they're still everywhere. Maybe they're a little sad.
I'm pretty curious about those guys. Still waiting for them to hurt us. Just as when we finish the final boss and have to make our way out of a collapsing cave, like in all of video games ever. And they're suddenly like, we're biting you. And it hurts.
Yeah. You get 3 minutes to flee, and now there's a wall of them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was positive that when the like stink gland, mimic gland things wore off and we came back again, that you're going to say like, oh yeah, and by the way, these things are now just attacking you all the time and you're going to take some kind of awful status penalty from it. I was not expecting, oh yeah, the only thing that's different is they don't seem to be swarming you.
That's the only thing that's different.
Maybe they're like oxpeckers, whatever they're called, the like birds that hang out on rhinos, and basically just, they have that beneficial relationship to the Dominion where they eat their dead skin.
They get down.
Did they look really exfoliated? Yeah. Did we roll like knowledge skincare routine on any of them yet?
I will say that for all of the Nathalgos you've seen, their pores were just so tiny.
Poreless.
Practically pore free.
It's like their
so
skin
that means they
made
can't
of
stick any brains
porcelain.
in them, right?
Everyone knows brains go through the pores.
It's true. Power's kept in the legs.
Don't they have? It's like giant pimples on their back that the brains go in, isn't it? Isn't that how they work?
Yeah, and they concentrate all of their pimples in just those blisters, and then there are none anywhere else.
And they've got really nice skin in those in-between pimple patches.
Yeah, winding up a brain on the back of a Nathalgu is definitely up there for Brixby fears, I would say. I love that our brains have remained as yet uncollected.
Me too. I was surprised by that.
You did find jars that you can keep brains in should you lose the connection between your body and your brain.
That reminds
the
me
reason.
a question for our GM, which I'm assuming you can answer because I think we're done with their part in the story. But the Migo, do they have an ability like like the Nathalgu have, where like if you get incapacitated, they can take your brain out. Like, can they do that in combat, or is that just something that they can do like later on type thing?
I think they can remove your brain like as basically a coup de grace.
Okay, so sort of like the Nathalgu can. I wondered
Yeah,
about that.
I'm not 100%, and I can look it up because you have killed all of them.
Yay.
No, that doesn't. They can do surgery on you when you're
That
helpless, but
happened to
no,
someone,
they
didn't
can't.
it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they can do surgery on you if they grapple you or if you're helpless, which does extra damage and ability damage, but no actual brain removal straight away. They're not as efficient with their brain removal as the Nathalgo.
If Brixby's brain does come out, can and keep some of those jars because my next character is going to be the Agnew to the Nixon brain kept in a jar that is Brixby. So probably just some sort of muscly himbo to carry around. Brixby's like, hopefully he eats enough of that paste and gets to that like vaunted 24 int or whatever I'm staring down.
Nice. Just be a really smart guy in a jar.
Mm-hmm.
In the hands of a himbo.
In the Arms of a Himbo is one of my favorite ballads.
Favorite Sarah McLachlan song.
Easily.
Have we done a good enough job summarizing, do we feel? I'm trying to think of other big things that happened before we jump into
I was
questions.
gonna
Those
say we can
trees were
jump
rough.
into question. Oh yeah, those
Yeah.
were.
And then there's also the color from outer space, or color from outer space.
Color out of space.
Color out of space. There we go. Whoops.
I
So
completely
yeah, that
forgot
one
about the color out of space.
that could have been a much worse. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sam, but that fight could have gone a lot worse for the whole gang than it did. I feel like we were
Yeah.
anticipating that being worse than it was.
Yeah, because it's hard to hurt because it's a blob and it's incorporeal. And it had like DR and stuff, so it was very hard. I mean, that is the only monster in the book that I haven't thrown at least an advanced template on. Now, you guys are running a level ahead because of the Zill arc, so everything has been bumped up to go along with that. But the color out of space, I was like, you know what, we're going to skip that one. Because I was genuinely worried.
Brutal.
Yeah, about it just hitting you with the lassitude and it just sucks the juice right out of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, as evidenced by like the blasphemy in that fight that we were referencing earlier, like certain things that can reduce the physical prowess of our party or their ability to make iterative physical attacks can really take the gas out of the whatever we're calling ourselves now.
The thing that wound up doing more damage than the color out of space, though, was the ship mind, which is the other blob. But it was also doing ability damage. And it was knocking people out with strength damage.
I forgot about that.
And it was shooting plasma, too. It did a lot of damage, and things got actually dicey. Like, Kira was down, Tarazi was down, and Levi was down. And then I think it was, like, crawling out of its jar, trying to get to the casters.
Yeah, that was rough. I forgot about that one.
Like, poor Azuma is just like, none of my guns work on anything anywhere in this book. It's a real trick on the GMPC that is unable to
jump in real quick. We just got rated Penelope Puzzles rating with a party of 6. I'm guessing they may have been rating because of Izzy doing Nancy Drew earlier. I'm guessing from the name of the streamer. I'm not sure, but thank you for the raid.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Surprised we're not doing Nancy Drew anymore.
Yeah, this is about as far from Nancy Drew as you can get.
We're talking about blobs that are immune to lasers.
It's more like Nancy Goo, am I right?
Oh, you got that.
I definitely didn't only notice because of that raid that I still had Izzy's Nancy Drew thing from half an hour ago listed.
It is definitely wild to see. I think that there are other campaigns that have substantially more time in between books. And I know that we've had some chances to possibly take some more time, but it's interesting as you get a little bit higher up, especially in an AP that created an entire series of crafting, like all
Mhm.
sorts of wacky technological crafting that I don't even thoroughly understand because I'm still walking
Yeah.
that liminal line of not wanting to read the technology guide.
Mhm. And
But
they keep
at the
giving us crafting tables too. Like we theoretically, had we chosen to try to disarm the tower, we could have had a crafting thing there. Binox counts as a like technological crafting thing. Like they seem to be giving us uh like pushing it towards like, hey, if you have a character, if you picked one of the things, like I'm assuming if someone was playing like similar to what Azuma is, they could be like, hey, here's where you can upgrade your stuff or create tech items or whatever. But then they really
Yeah.
haven't given us a super lot of time to do that, especially with how long crafting takes in 1E by the mechanics of the book.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, and
And it's
crafting
hard.
stuff in the stories is always a little bit kludgy because of the time element, but also with the technological things, everything is gated behind having the appropriate lab or workshop. So you had a bunch of labs in the choking tower, you did blow all of them up. But Binax has a lab.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's hard to know as players, to you're wanting to feel the sense of urgency that the adventure keeps going, but we don't know, and our characters don't know, like how imminent danger really would be. Like if we paused and took 2 weeks before we went into the Scar of the Spider, would we lose? Like, would we have had crafting time? Like we don't know. So
Yeah.
there's that kind of balance there. Whereas I'm playing in a different PF1 AP where it's literally like, all right, now you've got a year off while you do stuff. So choose kind of what you
Mm-hmm.
want to be doing for this entire literal year. It's like, that was a mind blow.
Yeah, I think that comes down to like how little time has elapsed between a lot of these like really intense events. Because I would say that like while there was a plot hook that kind of dragged us into book four, there was also a lot of like angst and desire to like survive against the conditions that have taken our friends and loved ones from us. That I think is something that has, really kind of not only been influenced by, but serves the clip of storytelling that we're doing. Because there is kind of an intrinsic urgency. It's not like,
Mm-hmm.
we can have these, like, for Asher and everyone else who deserves it, conversations and then just be like, yo, but like, really, I need to spend like 2 months outfitting myself with like those multiple really cool cybernetic implants that like I want to start jamming inside of our bodies. Except Sam did recently like hit us with a spell where they asked if we had any cybernetic implants, so maybe not
Yeah.
too soon. But
It's always that weird thing balancing time wise of like it's like in a video game where you're like, I've gotten to the final save point before the final boss, and the world is going to end unless I go through this door and beat this boss. Now I'm going to go do all the side quests. I'll be back here in a month.
Mm-hmm.
And you can
Yeah.
do that, but like,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the context of a show, it can feel pretty weird to be like, yeah, we have to do this thing. We have to save the world, but we want to carve out these big in game chunks of time.
I think you've done a great job of keeping the pressure on because I think that's very much a
Mm-hmm.
hard thing as a GM. Speaking from only one AP's worth of experience, but keeping in the AP that I had experience jamming, Skulls and Shackles, there are a lot of different opposing forces that work against the party, like any AP. And like knowing when to sort of gently apply that pressure is very important because, and I think, the especially in book four, Texas League has just continued to sort of come up right at the right moments in and around the book's baddies, the two alien races that we are essentially fighting. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's nice. It's felt like, especially running into Hearsec and then also dealing with everything else, it's kind of felt like we still have to stay on this course. That it's not like, Cassandra Lee left this Orange Julius somewhere 25,000 years ago, and what matters if we wait another day or two to find it, right? So,
Yeah, and you've done a good job of like keeping that urgency up, despite the fact that like we really don't know why it's urgent. Like we know like the technically are not good people, and we know that this information Cassandra has could be dangerous, but like really we don't know much more beyond that as far as like what the issue with divinity is, with any, like we know terms and we know factions, but we really don't know what the actual danger is. But you've done a good job even with that of it being obvious that there is a danger. Like even if we don't know exactly what that danger is, like clearly there's something going on that we need to deal with, which has got to be hard to do when like that isn't something, it's not something obvious. Not like there's a dragon over there that's going to attack, or there's these people amassing an army, or Tarbafon is going to break out or whatever. Like it's a much more vague threat. So I think you've done a really good job of, like Zach said, keeping up that sense of urgency when we don't know what it is that we're being urgent about.
Way to be vaguely threatening, Sam.
I aim to be vaguely threatening at all times and in all my
Nice.
interactions.
It's fair. I picked up that vibe. It's like we know what the Silver Mountain is a threat. We know that divinity in some form or fashion is trying to like hatch or wake up or something, and that will be bad.
but it's also a testament to Asher and how you played Asher and how you and Sam wove Asher's story into, because I would say that like it'd be interesting to hear other people's Iron Gods experiences in book 4 and maybe trying to maintain that urgency, because at least I feel like for Kira and Brixby, it was done out of a gesture of the importance of Asher's errand that was most of his life. And I don't know. I mean, I think that again, that goes back to how you played Asher and how Sam wove Asher's story in too.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, even like your new character, like Tarazi, who really has, when like if you think about it, doesn't really have a reason to be helping with this, but is willing to because thanks to, again, like Asher's thing, like the rest of the party has been able to say like whatever this is we're looking for is something that we think would be detrimental for the league to not get. And so we were able to even like bring that along to someone who had never met Asher, convince him to continue on his quest. Like it is a very well done like way of tying the character together with the story.
It's a shame he's never going to get a chance to go after the league. It's weird how they just kind of write him out after this.
I mean, it was kind of interesting because like Hellion really like kind of made that threat palpable and real by like showing that they're essentially rogue eyes or AIs in this game, and that divinity was worse than they were in that kind of general bigger bad sort of way. So I think that like a Hellion fight was not easy, and I mean, in general, there was the kind of the mastermind behind every force that rose against us in Scrap Wall. So I have a feeling that we're going to see sort of those similarities as we continue to move forward. That will kind of drag us towards divinity. But yeah, no, I mean, like if Hellion could be like a cool scorpion robot. Who knows what divinity could like
Yeah.
apparate or like present as,
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, like the serial escalation of it, like Hellion was a boss fight, and we've run into like I think since the specifically was damaged, so it's not as strong as it could have been, but like the Annihilator robot, that thing, even in its damaged form, could probably have taken out Hellion no problem. And
Oh,
that
yeah.
thing is, for all intents and purposes, like a foot soldier. Like like it shows the what we're dealing with, like Hellion compared to something that still has access to like all of the technology of this Androphan fleet. Like the sheer difference in scope.
So what are people looking forward to without knowing anything about book 5? What sort of like threads, elements, whatever are people interested in exploring in book 5? I can start. Mine is the Technic League. Technomancers, like people using this technology. I think that is going to be a really interesting element in book 5 or book 6. I don't know which one is the big book for them or if they're really big in both, but we've only had slight brushes with them up until this point. And you know that they have like ridiculous technology, like pretty intense arcane power. So I think that'll be really interesting to go up against like casters and their technologically, whatever outfitted opponents.
I want to see where this disembodied voice is coming from, and I don't mean Sam. I mean like this creature that's come to visit. I think almost all of us in our dreams at some point now, and I don't think we've seen the resolution of that yet, unless I missed something large.
No, there's been no resolution, but probably that's just a thread that's going to fall away, and we're not going to worry about it anymore.
I'm pretty curious. I want to know what's going on there.
Yeah, I think personally that's got to be something to do with Nick Shariel's like secondary faction that she was part of, because she was with the Technic League, but she was also part of whatever that other group is. And I think that's the group that's doing the weird like night terror whispers.
The other group would be the Chapel of Rent Flesh.
Yeah, that.
Who sound like good friends.
Yeah. They sound like the people that are going to whisper creepy stuff to you in your dreams. So that kind of tracks.
They wake you up first, and then they talk to you in the dark.
I mean, at least they're only renting your flesh. They're not trying to buy it.
And they go month to month. They don't even lock you into a lease.
But it's more expensive that way, so.
As far as...
I don't know, Brixby's been renting a tail this entire adventure. And anyway, sorry.
Got him. Book 5, I'm wondering, because I can't imagine after this task that we get to just keep bringing Asuma along for books 5 and 6. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she's with us for the rest of the adventure. I don't know. But kind of how that's going to tie into things, if at all, is, she mentioned that, we were on Divinity and we were kind of conscripted. We've played episode 100, parts 1 through 94, if I remember right. And, how does any of that tie in? When are we going to find all the space toilets, the spoilets, that we've been teased with in our secondary party?
There were spoilets in book 1.
There were. There were, but not like in the middle of the rec rooms and stuff like there were all over in the Divinity. They were just everywhere.
A well-spoileted area.
Yeah. But no, really how will we encounter any more Kasatha, or was this kind of their last hurrah in the book? I don't know. I'm curious.
I'm kind of shipping them and Pater a little bit. Like maybe
just the entire species and Pater.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. Kasatha, the planet of Kasoth. But I mean, like they are survivors who have lost people and manage to foster and scratch out a little bit of a way of living inside of the scar of the spider. Those 4 arms could do so much harvesting of problematic apples.
There's a lot of mulch composting that way.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
I mean, it's also like the dating pool is kind of small in the scar of the spider. I'm not really assuming that either of them are necessarily out there trying to mingle, but like,
what choice do you have?
Exactly. I know.
Most of the other people in the scar of the spider are undead.
Mm-hmm. And when the color out of space just dropped off Tinder for no reason, that was like 50% of the swipes disappeared there.
I wonder for book 5, kind of like Zach said, like if we're going to see more technically stuff, like I can't imagine that book 6 is not us going to Silver Mountain, like, and going to the capital city in that. Like, I just can't imagine that we don't do that. But that makes you wonder then what the rest of book 5 is going to be like. I'm assuming at some point we're going to go to I'm blanking on the name, but that one city that keeps being mentioned.
Chesed?
Yes. But I don't know if like the entire book is going to be that, if it's going to be kind of like Scrapwall was, where it's like a city of adventure type thing, or if there's going to be something else that we haven't thought of it. Like, because like going into book 4, I was not expecting like the left turn into like all the Cthulhu Dominion of the Black stuff, which I was pleasantly surprised by, having made a character that had Cthulhu stuff in their background. But like that came entirely out of left field. So that's why I wonder if like book 5 is going to have another thing like that, where like we're expecting one thing and then it's just entirely completely different.
I am bummed that if we do wind up going to the capital and having like an interaction with Black Sovereign or other people in there, that we do not have a character with a background like Vargas. Because it would be really neat to have a character, and that is just in a general sense, it'd be nice to have a character that's kind of like, that's part of the lore that I really like about Numeria. Though, like, the other side of the Conan coin, where it's just like kind of the barbarians across the steppes, and you've done a great job in all of those Vargas intros, the Mountain Fist intros that have been really great, and I think done a lot to, and then obviously inside of the exposition throughout book 2 particular kind of spread that out. But I'm interested to see a little bit more of what does, because I mean we've heard that Kevov Kul is not who they were before. They're incapacitated in some way, or they're like,
like it's like a puppet king now. He's not like, which that's going to be interesting. Like,
he's gone full Drooly Julie, if some people are to be believed.
I was going to say, and technically we don't even know if that's true. That's just what technically one has told us. Like that could be completely false, or it could be. That's something that I even as a player am really interested to find out whether that's a real thing or not.
Yeah, is it going to be like Rohan? Are we going to show up and it's kind of like that whole like Grima Wormtongue kind of thing, you know? Because like, what is the relationship between a generally technophobic group of people and a cabal of technomancers? Because you have to imagine that like that coalition is like a little tenuous, or like there has to be like a serious power imbalance, like we're describing somewhere in there. But I think that'll be interesting. I do think obviously the Silver Mount is coming for us at one point. I don't know if it's the next book or the book after. But yeah, I do imagine there's at least one other big old spacey dungeon delve in our future.
Well, that's kind of why I'm thinking that I feel like book 6, just at a guess, is going to be similar to book 2 in that we're going to have a city and then we're going to have a dungeon underneath it, which in this case is going to be like we do stuff in Starfall and then we have to go into the Silver Mount. Like that's my assumption for 6. But like I said, I have zero idea of what 5 is going to be, even though we're assumedly extremely close to it, because I'm almost positive that this is the final dungeon of 4 that we're in now. And that's I think it's just kind of interesting to have that I have so little idea of what 5 is going to be when we're like probably within 10 episodes of getting to it.
Jeff, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we'll get to meet and greet Gartone in book 5, or if we have to wait until book 6 to kill him. Because looking forward to that. That's an encounter I wish Asher was there for, because boy was he losing his mind when he found out about Val and the other kids and those experiments. Like,
yeah, no, he is not a very good person.
He might just be misunderstood.
no,
Maybe he has good reasons for being a terrible monster who does magical experiments on children.
Maybe.
We want to do a couple of questions.
Yes.
Sure.
I got
Put us
them
some
up.
listener questions.
Yeah, let's see. We got one from Izzy. It's the top one on here. Do we want to do a question from Izzy?
Of course. They do listen to the
what is
podcast, Jiro.
I do.
Your characters or favorite NPCs, favorite musical, and why?
Oh, this is a great question. Good job, Izzy. I guess I'll go first. I should have given this more thought, given that it was my question. Sadly, I'm unprepared. I'm gonna say Starlight Express, based purely on the title. I've actually never seen Starlight Express. I'm ashamed. Don't call me out, theater nerds, please. I'm sorry, but it sounds like something Kira would be into, and I'm pretty sure they all wear like a lot of 80s types clothing, which feels like Kira's aesthetic. So that's why. That's what it is. We'll call on the next person to go, whether they are ready or not. Sam, what's your favorite NPC's favorite musical?
Oh man, it very much depends on which NPC, but I think if we're going with Hersek Kaio, I think he's big into cabaret.
Oh my god, he would be into cabaret.
Yeah, he really he loves it, and he imagines himself as the MC as
naturally.
Yeah, I mean he's got that vibe. He was probably a theater kid back in Galt.
Theater kid would never betray his personal best friend and lover like that.
Oh,
theater kid would never, unless it was for the drama.
That's true. I mean, maybe it was for the drama, and he was just joking the whole time, and you would have known that.
It carried him.
In Chitterhome, they do a version of Cats called Rats. That's Brixby's. That's it. It's the same plot line. It's just rats.
Just introducing rats. Rats with funny names.
Yep, 100%. They haven't even changed the cat-related like dialogue either. It's just rats.
I love it when the rats swarm into the audience's seats and everything.
Oh, that sounds terrifying.
It's the most popular part of the show. 100% when we release 10,000. Oh, yeah. Yeah, if there isn't like what was that movie from the 2000s? Willard? Is there a musical version of Willard? Yeah. Okay, yeah. So those are Brixby's choices.
I think, yeah, Tarazi might go for Chicago, just for the whole like kind of revenge sort of undertones there, and I don't know, it's a little spicy. I think he would go for that. I was tempted to say Hamilton, but I'm like, no, that's too much just because it's my favorite. Harder to justify, but I think Chicago.
Does Tarazi prefer the stage version or the movie version? There is a right answer.
Yeah, no, the stage version.
Okay, that's not the right answer, but that's fine. It happens.
No, I
See,
mean,
yeah,
he would
my
have
head.
John C. Riley, obviously.
Richard
Phenomenal.
Gere, come on. When you first described Tarazi, I was like, that handsome silver fox. No, that's you're right. Honestly, when I say that out loud, it's definitely Richard Gere plays Vargas. Canonically, that is.
Oh, we have
Also-
Finder in the
Dazzle.
chat suggesting the Snake Squad's favorite musical is Snakes on the Plane, the musical.
There's something there.
Still starring Sam Jackson. And he
I
doesn't
was
sing
just
at all.
hoping. And Keenan
He's the straight
Thompson's
man.
there.
I think
Question is he?
Alwyn would be Cats. Not the Chitterhome version, just the original. And Vargas doesn't like musicals, so he would go with favorite play, and I think he would be Raisin in the Sun.
Mm.
Nice.
Yeah, I feel like if I had to give like a real answer, it'd probably be like Three Penny Opera. I feel like that would be like the closest thing to like Brix's like little McKeith kind of whatever. Or Urinetown. We talked about Urinetown recently.
We did talk about
That is
Urinetown.
definitely the level of kind of rising populist anger that I feel in this book could be sort of evoking the Urinetown. Excellent musical if you have not seen it.
Please do look it up. Of the several mentioned here today, that would be my go-to recommendation for if you're like, I want a weird musical. It's Urinetown.
Not Ride the Cyclone. I think that would be Azuma's choice.
Which one?
Ride the Cyclone.
Oh, fair. Okay.
I have no justification for that. I just Ride the Cyclone popped into my head when you said weird musical.
From Bellendora, how many adventurers does it take to get out of a van?
Depends on the adventuring party. Let's rank the parties that we've played and most likely to get out of the van to least likely
According to how long it would take them to get out of the van.
Yeah. All right. Of our parties that we've played, who would get out of the van the quickest? And there are a lot that we could be drawing on here.
Oh, good question.
Well, I feel like Vargas would refuse to get into a van.
That's true.
That is
If he
I
woke
mean,
up
that is the
in a
surest way.
van.
Yeah, if Mr. T style, he woke up in a van.
Be
I
quickest to
feel
get out,
like
right?
almost all of our players in the Monster of the Week game have run away from a car accident without telling anyone before. So they're like voted most
Yeah, they
likely
got
to
the
leave the scene of an
practice.
accident. Yeah.
The Freight Finders are canonically the worst at getting out of vans.
100%.
Now, see,
there
the
at the
thing is,
bottom.
though, the party from episode 100 live in a spaceship. So that's basically the space equivalent of living out of a van.
That's true. They live in a van out by the nebula.
Just trying to do my best, Chris Farley.
Oh, Finder
motions.
said the crew from Sundered Waves.
Oh, yes. Well, it depends on if it was before or after we nerfed our ability to play Sui or not.
Our incredibly
Yeah, that's
powerful
great.
animal companions.
There was a bird that could have literally
Pre-birder.
just ripped the engine block out of that van, thrown it a clear mile.
And taken its place and made it go faster.
Yes. I cannot wait to do my game with you all. I am so excited to see the characters that you bring for
Yes.
this one.
Also so excited.
I'm so looking forward to that just because I want to see what everybody makes, and I love that game.
Mm.
Did we want to let slip what that game is live on Machine Learning Live?
Let's do it.
Are we
love
hiding
our
it?
live reveal.
Do it.
We totally should. All right. Yeah, it is 100% Brindlewood Bay. If you are not familiar with this, it is a cozy sort of built on Powered by the Apocalypse. It is a cozy kind of Murder, She Wrote meets the Cthulhu mythos sort of RPG. So pretty standard kind of center of the road stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody,
it's the little old lady solves mystery genre, but the mysteries are like actual supernatural mysteries.
so, and sometimes they're just murder, but there is always cosmic horror in the background of Brindlewood Bay. If you have not watched Murder, She Wrote, one,
what are you
why
doing?
not? What's wrong with you? Please go pray at the church of Angela Lansbury, but like also like that kind of, there's no way to describe the cozy murder feeling without really just kind of sinking into one of those episodes that we're going to try to bring to your ears, the sounds of cozy murder.
Episode title, That Cozy Murder Feeling.
Cozy murder sound.
Cozy murder.
But also, please.
Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, if you do want to ever see us play a different system, let us know. Come into our Discord. Send us some sort of missive through message or chat or carrier pigeon, because we're always down to try different ones. Although we're pretty good at Powered by the Apocalypse at this point, because it is a very basic system that doesn't require a whole lot.
Oh, don't worry, Finder. We will definitely do Girl by Moonlight at some point.
Yeah.
I can almost reach my copy from here, but I would have to stand.
Yeah.
And it would be all
I was going to say
awkward.
multiple of us own copies of the book of that, so we are definitely going to do that one at some point. What advice would you give to a new DM/GM? And this question is for everyone on the pod, of course, from Triple Chizzy Cat.
Well, having just come off my first-ish game, or at least my first streamed game, I would say it's really helpful to have actual physical paper, which I had none of. I think it's nice to be able to jot down notes and see that in front of your face as opposed to trying to text yourself notes. Not super helpful. Real practical piece of advice here. Write stuff down. I never do, and I'm always sad about it.
A hack for, instead of writing stuff down, you can record your game and make it into a podcast, and then you can go back and reference the old episodes. That's a pro tip. I never need notes because I can go listen to old episodes.
I think like the importance of session zero style work can't be overstated. Yes. Like getting, for more than even session zero, is about getting on the same page as your party. Because we've, especially if you've ever played Society or pickup games, sometimes you, especially in PF1, you work with people that are like, my immersion. I want to know exactly what penalties I receive climbing a 45-degree incline at night that is wet. Because like Pathfinder 1E can give you that. They can give you the pure mechanical approximation of how that would inhibit your ability to climb. But then there are also tables that don't want that. There are tables that don't want to do survival. There are tables that don't want to follow trail rations. There are tables that don't even want to follow, obviously like canon structures or histories or stories. And I think that like so much can be, as a GM, it's easy to get really excited. I thought that my Skull and Shackles campaign was going to go a totally different way than it did. And I think that is a big part of that came from session sub-zero, like a couple different, because I had some new people too. So we did character creation. We talked a little bit about, we role-played scenes, just like random scenes, just to kind of get everybody feel comfortable speaking in the voice and kind of having interactions with one another. So I think there's a lot to be said about like what you do before you sit down at the table with people, because like there's not one way to run a good campaign, but you can disappoint a lot of people if some people sit down and they expect that simulacra, that immersion, and some people that are kind of more into storytelling with their friends. So,
and I think to build onto that one is however much planning you do ahead of time, you don't expect to like be precious with your world. Like if the players want to do something, it's 9 times out of 10 better to like yes and it than it is to try to force them back onto like where you decided you wanted the story to go or the game to go. We just got a donation for $55 from Jeremy on Extra Life. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yay, thank you.
Yeah, Jeremy.
Woo woo.
We are raising both the digital and physical roof for you. At least I am.
Awesome. We are at
Roof raised.
$405 out of our $500 goal.
Wow, y'all.
Way to go,
That
team.
is awesome. Was it saying? Oh yeah, like yeah. Don't be precious with your story. Like, give an example. Like when we were doing the Call of Cthulhu game, and Sam decided to go into the the funeral home
Real estate office.
Like I
yeah.
had zero. Like I literally didn't even come up with a name for that. I just left it the name that it was on the original map. Didn't come up with anything with that. And he's like, "No, we're definitely going to go here, going to do this." Like it was just, and like it could have been like, "Oh yeah, no, there's nobody there." But I'm like, no, you know what? Player wants to do this. Let's do this. You're going to go in here. And then the dice told a story, and Colm basically ended up like assaulting a receptionist.
Mostly a door.
Yeah. But just it ended up being, it led to a very fun scene. Like, and a lot of stuff like that. Like if your players want to do something and it doesn't take it too far off from what the story is, let them do it. Because at the end of the day, you're playing a game and you want to have fun.
Sam, how often do we do that to
you?
Like, take your well-laid plans and just throw them into the air.
It hasn't happened a ton. In that, I try to not ever have like guardrails where it's like you can't go here, you can't do this, this, and this. The one thing that really stands out in my mind as like a thing where I just flat out had nothing prepared was pretty early on. It was book 1 when you guys wanted to go to what's his name, the casino owner's house. And I was like, I never even thought of this guy having a house. But yes, of course he has a house somewhere. Yeah. So it's like in the middle of the episode, it's like, yes, you would know where he lives. So you can go to his house. And of course, there's got to be, there's got to be some payoff for that. Like that's a good idea. So they go to the house and I'm trying to figure out like, what can I move there? And then like, but it can't just be like you walk in the house and you get this clue. So it's like, we're going to move that in there, but I'm also going to grab a trap from Rise of the Rune Lords book 1 because I've got it right here and I'm going to put it in his closet and then Brixby's going to get a spike in the face.
Brixby.
Yes.
That was a fake trap or a real trap that didn't belong there.
See, like most people
out of Rise and you just throw it in there and it was all just like we got to just do something which I don't know, I think it worked out.
Yeah, nice.
Like most people think playing the face of the party means having a high charisma score, but it's about getting hit in the face over and over and living from what I understand. So
the face.
Yeah, I know as a player, when your GM presents you with a building and you're like, I'm going to jump up onto the roof. Are there any entrances or windows on here? From the other side of the screen, the answer is probably doesn't even mention that there is a roof. You just assume there has to be one because it's a building. But like that was ended up being one of my favorite book 1 episodes. Was Asher and Brixby in the bushes and jumping on the building and then trying to act drunk and sometimes your ideas end up being very memorable, and sometimes you end up assaulting a door in a funeral home. Just it goes either way.
that is kind of a cool part about Powered by the Apocalypse style games often, where they like force that collaboration back into the lap of the sort of disruptive player. Where they're like, I go up on the roof, what's it like? And you're like, I don't know, what's it like? Describe what the roof is like, jerk. You're the one
Tell
who
me.
climbed up there. Um,
It's cool that they have built into the rules calling people jerks for doing things, though.
Mhm.
best part.
It's
Really.
you know, they take away the adversarial part of GMing and they put it just directly in the rules. That's a good idea for writing a game, though. Just a game that is mean to you. Like it's the Dick's last resort of rule books.
Yeah. That's my new advice. Be mean. Jump right in there with your meanness.
We want to do one more question, and then we can start getting ready for our secondary machine learning with our 2 freelancers.
All
We
right,
can
we'll
wrap it up on one more question.
do one to close it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Oh, this is fun. Machinani gun or machinani gun. Still never figured out exactly how that's pronounced.
Machinani.
What goop mount or companion does each character pick if they could have one? Tarazi might want to abstain, but Levi might enjoy the option. Brix might default to Nathan, but maybe his thoughts have changed over time despite none passing. So if you could have a goopy companion or mount, what would it be?
I mean, objectively, Nathan has the best sticker.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nathan's sticker is delightful.
Mm-hmm.
Go check out Nathan's sticker if you haven't seen it before.
Yeah.
Very cute.
Yeah, I got to stay with my brand and my boy. You did call it right. Yeah, exactly, right there. The ever elusive machinani or machinani, right in gun. Yeah, I would say it's Nathan for Bixby. But my second is Levi. There was a time that we got across something by sitting on Levi, and Brix was like, "Wow, I could get used to this." It's a smooth ride.
He's crossed the river a couple times swimming for everybody.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, we had to transport Brixby and that grain and a fox.
Oh yes, the cabbage
and a goose.
I think Alwyn would have some kind of goopy, like small fowl like bird, like a chicken or a pheasant or something, just goopified.
Okay. Tiny axe beak. Those are like the like scary like what are they called? Rheas, R-H-A.
Yeah, Rhea. Yeah.
Yeah.
With the big skull cap and the velociraptor feet. Yes. You know what? He would just have a full size one of those. He's light. He could ride that.
It's like a chocobo, an angry chocobo.
Murder chocobo.
I think Pater would have a giant sentient carrot, but a goopy carrot.
Yeah.
So
Just
not
that one
unlike
boss
his
from
normal carrots.
Cuphead.
Yeah, just regular carrot for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like one carrot grew a little bit too big. You dig it out, and hey, it's got a face.
Became alive.
Oh God, what was the Killer Tomatoes? What was the '90s show?
Yeah.
Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Yes. Absolutely.
I was like, Doug? But no.
Doug.
Yeah. No, that's the Killer Beats or whatever they were called. Oh, Killer Tofu. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. By the Beats.
Oh, Killer Tofu was a song, but wasn't the band the Beats?
It was the Beats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were Beatles themed, but not really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was under the impression that more adults would be wearing berets, at least teenagers, when I watched that show.
Mm-hmm.
Judy lied to
berets
me.
And
yeah, Judy's beret.
Well, most adults just aren't as cool as Judy Funny.
That's true.
I will say I have seen a lot of people in real life that dress like Mr. Dink with just like the coat with the patches with the sweater under it.
This says a little bit more about me than anything else, but I knew multiple people that I would say could probably cosplay as Roger Klotz. In the days
Are they green and orange?
Being very punk. Yeah, it was mostly like the leather jacket and the like asymmetrical hairstyle and the snottiness that I feel like really defined many of my years. Although the double income no kids joke in the 90s was so funny. Like the Mr. Dink thing is just like hilarious. But also that was the first show to like riff.
Oh.
Yeah, right. That was the first
Just
show to
got that.
riff on like the they wear the same clothes every day. But at least that I remember as like a young
Doug's
person.
entire closet full of the same outfit.
His Dylan Farnham collection, you mean?
Yeah. Okay. So I think I am gonna run and grab some water real quick. I don't know if everybody else wants to go and grab some stuff, and we can get our two guests in, reset a new Craig track, and see everybody back in like 5 minutes.
Sounds groovy to me.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Right.
Pod Against the Machine.